Okay, let's try and record another episode of S.P.Q.R. Rome's darkest. The Emperor's darkest hour. Pretty sure this is where we left off. A new suspect. This latest crime of Calamitus's took some real engineering knowledge. I wonder if Gordian might have an idea about who Calamitus is. Perhaps Gordian is Calamitus himself. Wouldn't that be a laugh? A member of the equestrian ranks, a man so consumed by his work that the slightest crack absorbs his mind and his sketching pen for hours on end. This husband, this civil servant, could he be the evil and most feared Calamitus? My stomach turned with laughter. Musings. If I were Calamitus, what a strange thought. But it came to me in the night. How would I destroy Rome? Why would I destroy the great city? What would change in me to make me hate this state, this empire, this city that I built with my own hands? I have my family, my work, and soon I will have Ostia and all that it brings. If I were Calamitus, what a silly thought. Yeah. Let's see, where are we going actually? Not over here. It's kind of hard to navigate because it's just... So this is Sibyl's place. So what did I say last time or what was going to happen first? So this is ID September, right? First we're gonna get the cart, right? We'll see what happens first. Dreams. I have asked Prefect Papinian to put a good word with the Emperor for me. If I could just tell Severus who my father is, and that I'm a member of the Antonine imperial family, a family he claims to be a part of, so much would change for me. Property, perhaps a summer villa on the coast, no more money worries, an appointment for life. I would show them all that I am more than the failing offspring of a disgraced father. Water in the temple. The flooding of the temple of the defied Julius and the baths is still on people's tongues. Gordian once showed me the mechanism on the lower floor of the temple which opens the doors. You must light the altar before the doors open. The pump in the baths must have failed for the water to have overflowed there and into the temple. Parts of the pump were always breaking off. The varying temperatures were always altering the size of the pump's fittings. Right. I think that one actually was an accident. Caesar's victory games. I never had much of a stomach for the games, but this was worse than I had ever seen. A man in armor fought a man in tunic. After the unprotected man was killed, the other was stripped of his armor and became the prey. For wild animals, I guess. So what's this? when we get to... No, it's... Should be saying calendar September. Don't think there's much to do. A dream. Severus sent for me just after dawn. Fearful visions disturbed him. Woman's hand clawed at the dirty ground. Locks of wool scattered in whirling winds. A camel weighed down by embroidered fabrics, choked and died seemingly of thirst on the banks of the Tiber. Stars fell from the sky. Old hands clutched at the emperor's purple hen. Pleading voices eventually woke Severus from this nightmare. The emperor is not the only one frightened by these visions. My hands shook as I interpreted the dream for him. Oh no. A disaster, unbelievable. My finances were confiscated by the finance office accompanied by the Praetorian Guard. My accounts were closed and the rest of my fee for the Calamitis case is being withheld. Why? Because my so-called father, the disgraced senator, Valerius, owed taxes, and the state has come to me. I am not even his son, and I am being punished again for being raised by this man. Coincidence? I don't know. Maybe it was Sybil's orders to the emperor for the dream that he revealed. No mercy. Briannia insisted on attending Caesar's victory games at the Colosseum. I am sick from the violence in the city. Blood pouring from bodies is accepted not just as an everyday occurrence, but is cheered as entertainment. One of the gladiators appealed to the imperial box for mercy. Severus held his hand out with his thumb parallel to the ground. The crowds booed against the gladiator. Severus turned his thumb down. The crowd cheered as the gladiator was struck through. Yeah, no mercy. If the thumb would go up, then he would live, but hey, that's... anyone who's seen Gladiator knows that. Tribute to peace. It was right and proper to commemorate the great Julius Caesar with the gladiatorial games in the circus. His victories over Rome's enemies were unmatched until the heroic achievements in the east of our most powerful and most fortunate Emperor Septimius Severus. The former laid the foundations of the Pax Romana, the imperial peace, which the latter so gloriously propagated and confirmed. Besides, some real shedding of blood on the arena in honor of the defied Julius suitably made up for the unpleasant accident that took place recently at his temple. New sensations. I have been unable to get the bloody images of the gladiators out of my mind. I have drunk wine, but never to excess. I have heard, though, that getting drunk can blot out unpleasant thoughts, so I drank until the lair spun around me. I lay down, but the walls spun faster. Sanctus came home, and I tried to stand to greet him. I wobbled and then fell at his feet. He roared with laughter. I woke the next morning with a thick, dry tongue and a pain in my head. New sensations. The Colosseum. The blocks of hard travertine stone come from the Albalau quarries near Tiber. The edifice is 4 stories high, 1 story for Doric columns, the next Iconic and next Corinthian. The top floor has plain walls with windows and bronze shields alternately placed strips of giant awnings can be stretched across the top to shield the spectators from the sun. But it was not done the day I attended the Julius Caesar victory games. Oh, poor Gordian standing in the sun. Nothing happening this day. Memories. I went to former Senator Valerius's house to sort out this matter of the taxes. He is still out of town, living the good life in some friend's villa, away from the sweltering Roman summer. The slave left behind allowed me to walk through the rooms of the domus. I stood in the tiny room that had been mine as a child. I tried to remember fond moments with my father, but I could not. I tried to remember his giving me a toy or a sweet, but I didn't. I don't believe he ever did.
I have committed some violence of my own. Armed with my blade and a description of the soldier that attacked Verania, I sought out the fiend. I found him, and as soon as we were alone in the street, I dragged him into an alley. I hesitated for a moment, then called up the discipline I had learned from the brigands and slit his throat. This may not make me better than the bloodthirsty Romans, but at least I did not cheer as color drained from my victim's face.
Right. I mean, he does seem changed somewhat. Or maybe he has always been, like, somewhat reasonable. He just hates the Roman people. For some good reasons. In the Imperial box, I sat between Severus and Caracalla at the Julius Caesar victory games. If forced to turn my back on one, would I choose to trust father or son? Not a question I hope to ever have to answer. Caracalla and Gita fight and usually have to be separated by gourds. I am told their mother, Julia Domna, is the only one they respect, but I have yet to meet her. She must be a formidable woman to tame these two imperial beasts. In defense of freedom, the Vigilas report no murders or thefts in the capital for the last 3 days. This is indeed a sign of the rapid improvements in the citizens' morals. Such improvements is no doubt the result of measures taken against the nefarious encroachments upon the rights and freedom enjoyed by the Senate and the people of Rome. In consequence, all those who are caught in the act of throwing subversive slogans on the walls will be indicted on the charge of treason and dealt with according to the full severity of the law. Dura lex sed lex. Which we know what it means, but we forgot. Questions. Images of the games come to me in my sleep. One image continues to play at my brain, to pull at my brain. As I was leaving the Colosseum, I looked up into the imperial box. Caracalla and Gita sat beside their father. Julia Domna was not here. But among the others in the imperial box, I noticed Sybil, the soothsayer. I know Severus is a believer in the stars, but this Sybil has never been anything more than another hustler in the Forum. What is she doing so close to the Emperor? A bedtime story. Stella made me tell her about Ostia again. It was a cool evening, and we were in the peristyle courtyard of our house. Stella sat on my lap in the warm summer evening, and I told her about the ships from all over the world bringing goods to Rome. Corn from Egypt, oil from Spain, timber from Gaul, marble from Numidia, silver from Iberia, ivory from Mauritania, gold from Dacia, gems from India, and silks from the far eastern places beyond the empire. Sad news. My student told me today of my friend Cornelius's death. I cried, as I have not since my days in Syria. My lady told me through her own tears that she has some influence and was able to have his body taken from the Tullianum jail. She had him cremated and his ashes buried in the family mausoleum out on the Appian Way. My lady tells me she knew Cornelius too and felt fondly for him. She also says I spoke well of him to her, although I don't remember. Cornelius is a shade. His life, his memories, his silly little nightmares, all gone. That's a sad news. Cornelius is like our teacher as well. A mission. Each day I rose at dawn and go to the river to work with the fishmonger. At midday I cook the leftover fish scraps and eat them. I am unrecognizable now to those who knew me before, so I spend the afternoon wandering the forum, listening to gossip. I share my evening meals with Sanctus, and then we go to our separate corners of the lair to sleep. I am strong now, and it is time to find out who pulled the strings that led to my death. I mean, strong physically or even mentally. Another investigation. Briannia is determined to find out who framed her for adultery. I too have been doing some inquiring into her case, and most gossips in the forum are convinced that someone behind the scenes of the trial pulled strings attached to Severus to make him act as he did. I must help Verania find her enemy, and may the Roman and northern gods show no mercy when we find the villain. The obituary. STTL. Sit tibi terra levis. Publius Cornelius Sura, the renowned inventor, died yesterday at his villa on the Aquilin. He was... Let's see, what is this? This must be like 65 years of age. Cornelius, the last scion of the illustrious patrician family, served his country as the creator of mechanisms and devices that would enhance Rome's power and increase the comfort of our life. He was invariably favored by our emperor, even though he never stood for any office, and his peculiar interests earned him the reputation of a magician. The terminal illness caused him to withdraw from public view at the end of last year. He is buried at the family mausoleum on the Appian Way.
There is a new tomb outside the city along the Appian Way. It is for my old friend Cornelius. His arrest apparently turned into a death sentence. I have grown more fond of him in his absence than I thought possible. I told Gordian the news. We had a drink together at Quintus's wine shop and toasted our departed friend.
Oh no. Another lost friend. Of all the people to learn the terrible news from, I was passing Lucius's favorite wine shop, having taken a shortcut I will not take again, when he hailed me. I wasn't sure if I heard him correctly. He was slurring from too much wine, but he but the sad news was there, hanging in the air between us. I even sat with him and drank a toast of wine to my dear departed Cornelius. Rome is not the same without him. Goodbye, citizen. In a bind. Crixus has asked to be manumitted. He wants formal freedom declared in front of a magistrate. This Thracian thug wants to be a Roman citizen. In all honesty, if he had just offered to buy his freedom with all the gold I have given him, I might have agreed. But he wants it done publicly, and he wants me to do it for free. Not free exactly. In exchange, he will keep his mouth shut to the emperor about my activities. The good of the heat. The residents of Rome must appreciate the ongoing heat, which is a special gift of the soul Invictus, the unconquerable sun. One remembers that the relatives of the emperor's wife Julia Augusta closely partake in the cult of Elagabalus, the sun god at the Syrian Emesa. The blessing of the sun was invoked in the Curia after the emperor's report on further measures to eradicate treason. The senators stood up and chanted in chorus, "How lucky are we who enjoy your sight as our ruler. Let the sun prolong your years on earth at the expense of ours. With you being our emperor, Rome is blessed." Oh, great. A glimpse. I was changing into a fresh tunic when I turned to find myself face to face with Sanctus. We stared into each other's eyes in silence. Then he broke the gaze and his eyes traveled the length of my body. I felt my skin flush under his gaze, but I did not attempt to cover up. I had stared at him as he dressed that very morning. I had watched his muscled limbs, longing to see him exposed under the summer sun. Oh well, an inconvenience. Work on the new temple was slowed down today when 3 workers fainted from the heat. It has been an extremely hot summer in Rome this year, but weak employees is unacceptable. How will the glory of the Emperor's guardian spirit be worshipped in my magnificent new buildings if laborers stop working every time they feel ill? I have speeded up work even more because I have promised Severus that his temple will be finished in time for the Saturnalia in December. Well, that might be a big disaster going to happen. Spes and Victoria. Today was the hottest day of the year. The recent festival of hope and victory seemed pointless. I have little of one and no choice of the other. I am tied to this Calamitas case as if I were a slave, but I still have the case, and if I solve it, I will be rewarded. Papinian has promised, whatever that is worth. And I am an Antonine, grandson of Marcus Aurelius. Maybe there is a reason to hope and a prospect of victory. I don't know what Lucius really wants here. Like, is he gonna reveal himself as like being in this family, or also I think I like Verania much better now that she's actually doing something productive. Also, not the silly hopes of, oh, I wanna go places. What is this like? Other Romans. One dilemma.
If I were to leave the Order of the Vestals, then there would be a place open for Stella. But I am not sure I would wish this life on another. I cannot afford to entertain these thoughts of helping Stella to become a Vestal. It has been a wonderful life, but it has led to loneliness, and now a kind of restlessness I have never known.
This is like the trial, and she doesn't even say a word. Just sit there. I mean, it doesn't matter.
My work at the meat market begins to sicken me. All day I chop at the bloody carcasses of livestock. No matter how often I stop at a fountain to wash my hands, I can never get rid of the stench of raw meat. The other day, I surprised Verania as she was changing her clothes. She looked so beautiful. All I could do was stare at her naked body. I wanted to touch her, but all I could think of was how my hands smelled of dead animals.
Poor man. I hope you heard that. What was I saying then? I guess it didn't matter what she was saying at the trial. They wouldn't have believed it anyway. Disposal. I found it necessary to remove Crixus from my life. I told him I would free him, but I didn't mean it. I cooked him a special Syrian stew my mother used to make. The meal is very tasty as it contains many Eastern spices. The spices disguise the taste of just about any other foreign substance that might accidentally find its way into the stew. After he ate, Crixus said his stomach was upset, and he went to walk out the pain on a stroll through the city. Evil woman. The good of the heats. We read that. Acts of the Arval brothers. The Arval brothers met on the Quirinian hill to honor Salus Publica, the goddess of public safety, with thanksgivings and appropriate sacrifice. Slaughtered were 2 bulls and 2 rams, impeccably bred, upon which the Magister Fratum proceeded to utter the following prayer. O Salus Publica, we pray and ask and entreat you to protect our most fortunate and most powerful Emperor L. Septimius Severus Pius Caesar Augustus Arabicus Parthicus, the sacred imperial family, and the Senate and people of Rome, against the traitors, blasphemers, and enemies of human race, while we offer to you sacrificial victims in our name and our authority as the Arval brothers. Also, let me check this quickly. VNG. A child of the Forum again. I walk with confidence again. I feel a part of the Forum again. Of course, in a different way. I am just another Roman worker trying to make it through the day to a filling evening meal and a good night's sleep. I have asked questions about my trial, but it seemed to be old news. The gossips are onto new events. I have been forgotten, but I will not forgive. I will continue to investigate to discover who framed me and manipulated the Emperor. Progress. The entablature has been started on the new temple. A few large blocks of marble still remain to be lifted into place, but the hoisting machine, that's a typo, will take care of that tomorrow, fainting workers or not. The Caristian stone arrived from Euboea at the harbor at Ostia a few days ago and was brought to the site yesterday. It is so thin the sun shines right through its pale green surface, which was the intent. Lucius's dream. A large turbot lay on a platter. When I ate it, it did not taste like fish, but like vegetables and pork mash. I drank from a gold goblet of wine, but when I swallowed only water ran down my throat. I draped myself in a white toga with a purple stripe, but the cloth wrapped itself tighter and tighter around my neck. I gasped for air. I saw the temple-shaped box that holds the funeral mask of my ancestors. Then I woke up. A new woman. I followed Verania as she went to work. I wanted to make sure she was as confident as she claims to be. She moved with purpose through the crowds, even occasionally pushing someone aside. She talked with merchants and smiled at the gossips. No one challenged her or recognized her from her old life. To me, she looks the same as when she was a Vestal. She has a light that seems to shine from behind her head that casts her face in an otherworldly glow. Right. New property. I agreed with Gordian to lease an abandoned funeral guild for my business. The lease will begin at the start of the new year. I will continue to live for now behind the temple of Vespasian. I do have my eye on a beautiful domus with lovely gardens on the Aventine Hill. Tall and elegant cypress trees border the property, and there are yellow rose bushes planted all along the walls of the house. I could reach out the bedroom window and pluck a blossom each morning. Right, I don't think Sybil would be agreeing to the funeral guild. Rage in the night. Xanthus and I talk into the night. Sometimes we hear noises from above and put out the lamps, fearful they will give us away. We talk, our voices reaching out of the darkness, our common rage meeting in the air between us. I still believe the Emperor himself is not as corrupt as the Empire. I know Severus personally. I tell Sanctus he is capable of great generosity. Sanctus scoffs. The fish rots from the head down, he reminds me. Yeah, I don't think Severus is like... I mean, I guess he is an emperor, right? He can't really be... Like, he can make decisions, right? Okay, but of course he's going to be generous to the Vestal virgins, to the gods, to even if it's only to the head of the Vestal virgins, just to keep his own name clear. Nights. She talks to me after we have put out the oil lamps. Her voice soothes me and readies me for sleep. Sometimes we get agitated about the Empire, but even when she rails against corruption, her voice eases me into the peaceful sleep of children. I throw my voice back to her through the darkness, agreeing with her about some injustice or just relating the events of my day. Then our voices lower themselves slowly, and the silences replace the words, and we sleep. A late summer's day. I thought 5 days before the Nones was the hottest day of the year, but I was wrong. Today is the hottest. Too hot to work, too hot to walk or eat or drink or even feel sorry for myself. I found a relatively cool spot under a shady portico and slept the day away. A squawking group of birds woke me in the afternoon. I shooed them away. As they took flight, I shut my eyes. I did not want to see the auspices they wrote in the sky. It could only have been bad news. Yep. I mean, maybe sometimes it's a good thing to just ignore those signs if you don't wanna know. A burden released. Probably the most wise thing that Lucius has ever said in his whole life. I have finally gotten Sybil to agree to take a lease on the Tenor's Funeral Guild buildings. The Tenors moved onto larger quarters last winter, and it has stood abandoned since then. What Sybil doesn't know is that while she was visiting the building, the wind was blowing out from the location. When the wind blows towards the building, it brings with it the stench of the tanneries at the Argiletum. The Sibyl's power to see the future must have been weak that day. Yep, I mean, she doesn't like the place. She didn't like the place before, and she'll find a reason to hate it. To not take it. An absence. My student has not visited me in over a month. I fantasize that she is from some distant part of the Empire, and through her mind's eye she has seen a vision of a man she loves who is in danger. She wraps herself in her cloak and rides with the wind on a white horse. She rides through the night without stopping to rest, the whole empire spreading out before her. Or maybe she is just ill and will return to me when she is better. Yeah. Another falls. I longed for familiar faces, so I wandered near the tabularium. I waited, and eventually Gordian came down the stairs. I followed him to a construction site. I questioned a worker who said they were building a new temple for the emperor. I watched as Gordian met with some low man. One of them I recognized as being the nefarious builder Soter. His companion gave Gordian a pouch. Maybe Xanthus is right. Maybe everyone is corrupt. The builder. I met with Soter and that little man he goes about with. Soter never touches the coins he contributes to my build, to my fund. His vile little friend always hands them over. Soter's rebuilding of the insula is going very quickly, probably too quickly. He still uses the cheapest materials and those most susceptible to fire and collapse. But he gets the buildings built on time and within budgets. I always feel, though, as if I must wash my hands after I spend time with the likes of Soter. Yeah. Good job, guys. Another deal. I observed Gordian with some unsavory types talking by his construction site. I recognized Soter, the builder of buildings that fall down, and his bagman, Casca. There was a payoff in process. After a brief discussion where Gordian looked his usual deluded, oblivious self, the bagman handed over a pouch of coins. I was preparing to forgive Gordian for tearing down my office building, but I have decided against it. A discovery. I found a dead body behind the Agrippian warehouse. First I held my hand over his mouth for a moment to make sure he was in fact dead. There was no breath. Then I rolled him over to see his face. I recognized him as the Thracian slave who testified at Verania's trial. I can't remember who his master is, but I am sure I have seen him somewhere other than at the trial. I can't remember his name either. Who is he? Must be Crixus, right? It's also kind of a weird way to get rid of Crixus, like poisoning him, but it was kind of like a slowish poison. But I guess it worked out in Sybil's favor. He didn't get to tell much. The investigator. Lucius is watching me again. I was leaving the palace with Severus and the rest of the imperial entourage when I saw him lurking in the shadows of the trees. I suppose he had business there. He is working for the Praetorian prefect. Then, when I returned home, he was standing by the Temple of Concord, and I had to pass him to get to my door. I wonder if this is about Crixus. I wonder where that large Thracian fell. Joy. My precious Stella, celebrating her 8th birthday, surprised me with a midday meal in a basket. Suddenly, she and her slave were standing beside me while I was directing the workers. I asked her now how she found me, and she told me that a clerk at the tabularium had given her direction. She is so independent for such a small girl. We had a lovely meal of cheese and fruit. Then I bought her a honey cake for her birthday. Right. Let's just go like one more day or something like that.
I was sneaking around the S.P.Q.R district last night when a hoodlum jumped me. This time I was ready. I executed the brigand maneuver Xanthus taught me. I found it difficult to catch my breath, but I was exhilarated and pleased at the sight of the man helpless and wounded. Then the fear returned. This time I was afraid of myself and my own capacity for violence.
Interesting cutscene there. The slave market. They buy and sell people near the temple of Castor and Pollux. The dealers yell, Dacians for sale, Syrians for sale. The man and woman stand on view so their potential buyers may inspect them. The dealers are asked who owned them before, what kind of work they did, where they lived. The man and woman remain silent as their histories are told and their teeth and limbs are examined. Then money is handed over and they have a new master. Right, I'm just gonna stop here. Continue next time. Thanks for watching.